Hello, friends, and welcome to our very first ever episode of our brand new podcast that we are setting up. And I'm not quite fully decided on a name yet. Might call it Odin's Podcast or Odin's Podcast, somewhat along them lines, but that is not important right now. So this is the very first episode that we are doing, and I feel like it is only right to kick off with what I do as a business, and I'm assuming what a lot of you guys are here looking for is how to actually start your own dog walking business in 2025 and exactly what you're going to need to get going. So without further ado, I think we should just dive straight into it and crack on, and I will give you guys exactly what you need to start your very own dog walking business. And it's not super difficult to do. There's a few things that obviously you're definitely going to need and you're going to have to go over, but honestly, to get started you could do it fairly quick. And in my experience in life and everything else like that, you learn more by doing than you do on a course. You could spend all the time you wanted trying to learn how to be a dog walker and doing courses online and doing all sorts of different courses and things like this to try and get you equipped to do dog walking. But honestly, experience and doing will actually teach you so much more, because there is so much to go over. There's the canine behavior side of things and managing dogs, managing so many dogs, and then there's the clients, dealing with clients, keeping them happy, the satisfaction there. There's so many things that only experience is going to be able to give you over time. So I'm just going to give you the bare bones, the basics right now of what you guys need to actually get started, and we'll go through more and more through all these podcast episodes. So obviously the first thing you're actually going to need is you need to decide on your sort of name and logo. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, like logo generators, and now you can use Canva. They've got their own AI generator. You could just put an idea in there and see what the logo spits out for you. Or if you've got an idea in mind, there are so many tools on Canva, even the free option, that will give you the option to put all these little things together, which is exactly what I did. I layered different elements on top of each other, and we called it what we called it, Odin's Paws. And that's basically it. You don't need to spend too much time on this. You just need to involve something that resembles your service and what you do as a business in your logo. And typically it's going to be paws or dogs or cats or services and stuff like this. So you don't need to go too much into it. Your logo can change over time. I would highly suggest you guys just picking something that you like for now. Design something nice, quick, a little bit eye-catching, nothing too major or fancy or anything like that, and getting that out there. Get your logo sorted. And obviously, if you picking your name, I just went with Odin's Paws because my dog was called Odin's Paws, dog walking. I just went with that, and that's what stuck, and that is what we've gone through. We haven't changed it any more or any less than what we had there. So you guys can sort of pick whatever you want. If you've got your animals, you've got your names, where you're from. I probably wouldn't suggest picking a location, because if you ever decide to change location or anything like that, you'd have to change the name. It's easier just to pick a name that's not based on a location, in my opinion. But that's entirely up to you guys or what you guys decide to do. But yeah, so picking your name and logo, I wouldn't spend too much time on this. An absolute day at most. Just try to decide. Just pick something, get it out there. If you want to sort of rebrand and restructure your name as time goes on, you can do that, no problem at all. It's not going to be that much of an issue at the start of your business. Next, you want to try and pick your services and what exactly it is you're going to do. So there's a few things that are going to go hand in hand here. So you need to pick the services, but you also need to decide how you're going to start your business. So there's a couple of things. If you're going to pick group walks, you need to decide on how you're going to get all of these dogs around. Are you going to do it via car? Are you going to do it by a van? Are you going to do street dog walking, street group dog walking, where you go to the first dog's house, you pick up that dog, walk to the next person's house, maybe pick 3 or 4 dogs up in total, do a bit of a loop somewhere, and then drop them dogs off. So you've picked up your last dog, you could do a loop all the way back around to the first dog's house, drop that dog off, and then they've all had the exact same amount of time. You could do it like that. If you didn't want to use a vehicle at the start and you were just doing it in your very local village, town, place, wherever you live. So that's one way to sort of do group dog walkings. Are you going to pick them up? Are you going to put them in a car? If so, you need to do this safely and properly and follow all the legalities that come with that. And if you're going to put them in a van, obviously don't just chuck 4 or 5 dogs in the back of a van and just let them roll around. You're going to have to decide, are you going to use fitted crates, collapsible crates? if you put in collapsible crates, the travel crates and stuff like that, if you put bits of ply on top of them and stack them up so they're a bit more structured, and then you can ratchet strap them down to obviously stop the crates from sliding around, then all the dogs are separated and safe. If you're going to put them in a car, you're going to have to use seatbelt harnesses, hammocks, try and get boot crates if you can. My car's got fitted crates at the back where there's 2 massive crates. And so there's these things that you need to consider when you're going to decide on your services. This, obviously, you can expand on this as time goes on. But for now, obviously, just at the start of the business, you need to decide what you're going to start with and how you're going to do it. So I would suggest taking a little bit of time and deciding that. If you just wanted to be a solo dog walker and just do solo walks, then that's obviously fairly simple. If you just got one car and you don't want to put the dog in it, you could drive to that person's house and walk the dog from the house. Or if you are doing it by car, you pick up that one dog, you could take it to the moors or any open space that you've got, or a field or anything, and then obviously you can walk them from there. So there's different services, but let's focus on the actual bare bones and the basics of starting. Basically, as a dog walker, you're either going to do group walks or you're either going to do solo walks. We'll just keep it there for simplicity, because that's probably where most of you are going to start out. So you just need to decide which one of them you're going to do, and then how you're actually going to do it and how you're going to travel about. Because obviously, if you start putting them in cars, you're going to need the insurances to go hand in hand with that. You're going to have to make sure that you're insured to travel around with these dogs, and they're legally allowed in the car, and so many other things like that. So obviously, we've just mentioned insurance. So let's go over insurances. You absolutely must. It's an absolute must, non-negotiable. You should take out the right insurance for your business. If you're just doing dog walking and stuff like that, you need to find something that covers all the bases. Like if you're traveling, and like I've just mentioned, insurances are a must. It covers you, it covers the dog, and it covers like any loss of keys, any damages. If you were to if you were to take out the dog and it has some expensive GPS trackers on it and stuff like that, and you lost it, and the client for whatever reason kicked off about it, and you didn't have the money outright to fork out for this new expensive GPS tracker, insurances will cover that. And if you lost all of the client's keys while you're out, your insurances will cover to have the keys replaced, and obviously all the locks redone and things like this. So insurances are a must. I don't need to say much more than that. Obviously, you can just do a quick Google search and find which insurer and which insurances are going to suit you the best. So obviously, like I use Pet Business Insurance, there's Protectivity, there's a couple of others, but honestly, they're the 2 that most people use that I know, and what I use myself, obviously. So anything along them lines, just do a quick Google search, find the services and the insurances that are going to cover you the best. So following on from insurances, you need to have a contract in place, because nothing is solid without a contract. And there's so much things that you guys could put in a contract, but we just need to keep it basic. And you can find templates online. Again, if you really want to, you can find these templates of what suits you, and then you can tweak them to adjust them to your particular services. So in your contracts, you should always have everything in place, like how many dogs you're going to take in one group. That depends, because depending on like areas and local councils, the insurances will vary. So going back a little bit, sorry to backtrack there, your insurances, like some of them, my insurance says a maximum of 6 dogs per one handler. So if there was me and my wife, we could have up to 12 dogs, which is absolutely silly, because 12 dogs is far too many in my opinion. But again, but then there are the other insurers which say it depends on your local council. The council over the border from me actually states there is no limit. So you could take 12 dogs on your own and still be insured. Again, like I said, taking out 12 dogs on your own is a bit nuts. So I wouldn't do that. So anyway, I digress a little bit there, but let's get back to contracts. Contracts need to state all sorts of different things, but having as much covered as you possibly can is always going to serve you the best. So like having your pricing in there, how much you're going to charge for a solo walk, how much you're going to charge for this. It's going to go over the liabilities. It's going to say that you're insured. There's just so many things to go over that we obviously just can't fit into a podcast. So what I highly suggest you do is you do a little bit of research. We have our own contract templates and stuff like that. If you do a quick Google search, people have them on their own blogs and their sites, which are free for you guys to use. You can take them and tweak them, rearrange, take out the bits that you don't need, put in bits that you would like to have in there. Like, there's all sorts of silly things like that are even super important to the contract, but would always be like could be beneficial to have in there. Like, where do you want the dog placing upon return? Like, do you want it in the crate? Do you have the free rein of the house? You should also state in your contracts as well, like that you can't always guarantee that the dog's going to be pristine condition. Especially me, the way that I do my dog walking, where you do off-lead walks in the malls. So like, there's a good chance that a dog might come back a little bit wet. It might be a little bit muddy. I always do my best to clean these guys off, towel dry them down, give them a wash if they need. If they've rolled in fox crap, I'll clean that off. Do you know what I mean? But if a client says, yeah, it's absolutely fine, I'm not bothered about the condition of the dog, and they have free rein of the house, and it says that in there, like they don't want them in the crates, they don't want them in locking in the kitchen, but they're allowed free rein, and you've let them in, and then they kick off that there's mud everywhere. Well, it's kind of like, well, you agreed to this sort of situation. So anyway, that's not the most important thing that's going to be in the contracts, but I suggest you do a quick Google search and find one that sort of ties in lines with your views and what you need, and add in all the bits that you would like to be in there, basically. But yeah, so you should never ever take out a dog anywhere at all without insurance or contracts. It's just an absolute must. It's just safety for everyone involved. So next, I would say pricing is going to be the next most important thing that you guys need to decide. And I think we could actually like dedicate an entire like podcast episode to pricing, which I may do. So I might just briefly touch on that now. You need to decide, you need to work backwards. Do never undersell yourself, do never undercharge yourself whatsoever. You are looking after somebody's dog, and most people nowadays like treats their dogs as their own little kids. You are basically taking a family member and they're in your care, so charge accordingly. Obviously, depending on how you do your services and how you do your dog walking, if you just pick a dog up and you take it to a dog park and a dog pen and just leave it in there for like 40 minutes and then walk it back to the house, obviously I would charge less for that than I would somebody picking a dog up, putting them in the car, taking them up to the malls where they can have like free rein and just do what they want, off-lead adventures basically, and then they get cleaned off and then they get brought back where they've been well looked after. The latter option is a far more beneficial experience for the dog, and it's just a worthwhile service as opposed to just dropping them in a dog park. Do you know what I mean? So you need to sort of balance your pricing around the services you're going to offer, but also what you need to do is you can't be undercharging yourself like per dog and just making a wing of it, because when you start getting busier, you'll quickly realize that you can't fit any more dogs in, but you're not actually making enough. So what you're gonna have to do, you're gonna have to up your prices, and it's always a challenge upping your prices. It's always tricky for you to try and word it. It's always tricky for the clients. It's just, don't undercharge yourself from the start. It's a super easy trap to fall into, and I know many people that have done it. And so the best course of action, the best plan of action here is to decide how much you actually need to make per month. Like, what do you need to make to be able to live like for that month? And then you need to decide, once you've decided how much you need to make, you need to decide how many dogs is it going to take to meet that amount, and how many walks per day or week is it going to take to get to that amount. And when you break it down, so you figured out how much you need to make per month to survive and make the business viable and profitable, which is, no matter what anybody says, when you're running a business, everything always wants to be profitable. You don't want it to be making buy. You need to be making some profit. So you need to decide how much you're going to make per month, how much you would like to make per month, should I say, and then you need to break that down to how many walks it will take and how many dogs you are going to need to hit that amount for the month. And then you need to decide, right, well, if I can only fit 5 dogs per walk, and I'm going to do 3 walks a day, which is 15 dogs. Do you know what I mean? That's 15 dogs per day. Now, do you need more than 15 dogs per day? Do you need less? How many can you actually fit? Are you going to actually walk, like, are you going to start at 9 and finish at 5? Are you just wanting to do this a shorter amount of hours? So you're going to take 2 groups of like 6 or 7 dogs if your insurances will allow it. You need to decide how many walks you're going to do, how many dogs it's going to take each day to accrue that monthly amount, and then you need to decide from there how much you're going to have to actually charge each dog or each client to make that viable. That's like the basics. You need to work backwards a little bit. You can't just go in there and go, I'm going to charge £8 a dog for 40 minutes. I'm going to charge a £10 per dog for like X amount of time. You will quickly learn when you get full, if you want to take this as seriously as a business and actually make a living out of it, you will quickly learn like £8-10 per dog. It's just not enough. Because like if you were to do £10 per dog, you'd end up having to you'd have to take out more than like 20 dogs a day. And how many walks is that going to take if you can only fit 5 dogs and you're only to do 5 dogs at a time, but you need to take 20? That's 4 walks a day. That's a lot of walking. You'll be absolutely wrecked by the end of it. I promise you that. Yeah, so coming up with a pricing plan and a structure is it's just going to help you out a lot at the start. Don't go in there undercharging, trying to undercut everybody else to try and get more clients and start building a base, because you'll quickly find that you'll just get outdone. Do you know what I mean? You'll become more tired because you have to do more walks. You'll either have to put your prices up if you want to take it seriously. Don't go in there, don't undersell yourself in any way. Come up with a pricing structure and work backwards from there, and then decide how much there you're going to have to charge for each dog to make it actually worthwhile and make it viable. So last thing you've got to do. So you guys have picked your name and logo. You've come up with an idea. You've sort of had a quick look into your contracts and insurances. You've picked out the ones that are going to work best for you. So you've got them in place, hopefully ready. You've done a bit of a pricing plan, a bit of a structure, a bit of a game plan on how much you need to charge per dog to make it actually worthwhile. And then obviously you've decided what sort of services you guys are going to offer. If it's going to be group dog walks, solo dog walks, and then there's obviously all the other little bits of dog walks that you can take on after that. You know, you can start working doing dog walks for reactive dogs and things like this. And eventually, if you wanted to broaden your services, you could start looking into home boarding and stuff like that. It's not something that I cover, so it's not something that I go over too much. But if you wanted to offer like dog boarding or house sitting and stuff like that with the dogs, these are all branches and avenues that you could take. One thing, just like quickly to mention on a side note while we were going on about services, one of the things that not a lot of people do, but is actually becoming quite a popular service, is like dog chaperones to wedding. You know, when people are having the photo shoots done and they want the dogs there, but they can't leave the dogs there all day. Somebody now you do like wedding packages if you have time, and this is something that you guys wanted to do. You could offer like a wedding package where you take the dog out for a walk, you keep it clean, stuff like that. You bring it out for the photo shoot, they can meet everybody at the wedding, stuff like this, and then you take it away, and then you can sit with it for the day and do dog sitting. This is kind of like a high ticket package that you could do, because it's going to take all day. So obviously, if you ever looked into this, don't ever undercharge that. It's a high ticket service that you guys are offering if you ever decide to do that. So that's something that you could probably like look into. We're not obviously going to go over much of that in this episode, but obviously you guys, there's so many other little avenues that you can take off being a professional dog walker. You can obviously, if you start getting into it, you guys can decide that you want to do dog training, dog behavior. You need to look into what's going to help you down the line. So having group dog walks and solo dog walks and working with all the different breeds and all the different like little temperaments and quirks, it gives you a lot of base experience to work with before you start expanding out into other areas. And so once you guys have decided all these little things, you need to decide on how you're going to market yourself, because you need to find clients. Nobody's just going to randomly find you and crack on with it. So we are going to do an episode just on marketing, because there's so many little things that can go with it. But basically what you need to do is you need to decide on how you're going to get your name out there, how are you going to get people to know you. Because obviously the best form of market, in my opinion, is word of mouth, but there's nobody to give that recommendation to yet. You haven't got enough clients, there's nobody recommending you. Obviously you've got friends and family who can recommend you, but if people know that these are your friends and family, then obviously they're going to be like, well, they're just going to recommend them anyway. So what I highly recommend you do, you get some flyers, you get some business cards. They don't cost a fortune, and you can just leave them places. Do you know what I mean? You can pin them up in like play areas. You can go, if you wanted to, you could walk down to the park and you could pin them on like the fence where people are going to be taking their dogs, stuff like that. You could pin flyers up there, people will see them. And one of the biggest forms of marketing that you're probably going to need at the start is a Facebook page. And what I highly suggest you do is you set up your Facebook page with your name and your logo and all the things you've decided, and then the relevant information of like pricing and telling people that you are insured. What I would suggest that you do, that when you guys have set up your Facebook page, is that you start doing regular posts, and you can either create a little post on Canva explaining that you are now doing dog walking, you're fully insured, group dog walks are this much, solo dogs are this much, this is what we do off-lead walks in the malls and stuff like this. And you could put that, and then what I would highly suggest that you do is you like ask to join all of the local groups in your area. Like for me, it's like the little village, town, and then talk, and then the village over to us is like something that and talk, and it's always talk. But either way, your local town or village, the local community groups, I would get on there and occasionally just share the little posts that you've got into these groups so that people can see it, start getting into people's minds, and they can start remembering the name, and then go from there. And then what one thing that I think has separated me and my business a lot from a lot of the other dog walkers in our area is that I take some high quality pictures. I take high quality pictures, high quality videos, and we're always in the local moorland. We're always in the local area. So what I would do with them is I would take some really nice pictures, do a little bit of little aftermarket editing just to make them pop a little bit, make them a little bit more vibrant. And then I would sort of like, take them pictures and just saying, pack walk out today in like the local moorland where we were, the name of it, and put that out there. And then people would sort of see that and they would like it, and eventually they would see the pictures of the dogs playing, and then they would see my page, and then they would like the page, and then somebody else would see that they've liked the page, and then they hopefully go on and look the page, and then they start seeing the pictures of the dogs running and the videos of them playing and enjoying themselves and the structure and the form of it. And then they start to like it, and then they start to inquire about it, and they'll say, that's something that my dog would proper like. How do I go about doing this? And then you set up a meet and greet, and you start building clients. You get good client relationships building. You get some amazing dogs onto your teams and onto your packs. And then you take pictures of them, and then people say, they take them up into the malls. They have a great time. They're always well looked after. I get some amazing pictures and stuff like that. And then it's word of mouth. My dog would love that too. My dog would love that too. And then you can pin these on, obviously, in the local groups and just start rolling from there. So marketing, there's a lot more to go over in marketing, but like the absolute basics is Facebook page, share into local Facebook groups, take some high quality pictures, get yourself some nice business cards and some flyers, which don't have to be super expensive. Just get like 50 for now and start there. And you can pin these up in local places. Like if you've got kids like I have, we used to go to play places, I'd just pin some up there. My mum worked in the supermarket, I would ask her to pin me some up there. Stuff like that. Offering, and also to go back to your Facebook page, offering helpful tips, lead manners. Like people say that we're just dog walkers and we shouldn't really be offering training advice. I walk 5 or 6 dogs per group, and I can't have these dogs pulling, so I need to work on lead manners if there's dogs, and work with the clients on lead manners. Just little helpful tips and stuff like that. It goes a long way, and it just shows a little bit of knowledge and skill as well. And guys, I think that is gonna wrap it up for the first ever episode of the Audience Podcast. Undecided, still undecided. But that's going to be the very first episode, and I think we're going to wrap it up there. So a few basic things for you guys to decide and go over. If you do want to start it, stay tuned to the podcast. If you liked this episode, please, if you're on the YouTube, drop a like, drop a subscribe, so you can see more, catch up on more of these. I'm going to figure out how to get all these onto Spotify and onto Apple Music. So that's it for the first episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you found some value from it. And in the comment sections and stuff like that, if you want to have me discuss a little bit more in depth over certain areas that you would like to see in future podcast episodes, please drop them down in the description box or the comment sections and stuff like that, and I'll make episodes. I'll make episodes on anything. But yeah, so that's going to wrap it up for this first episode. But what I want to do with this podcast going forward is obviously offer business tips and advice, especially in relation to dog walking. But I also want to share training advice. I also want to share some just experiences with my own dogs and certain things, and discuss just all sorts of different topics around the dog walking world and dogs in general. So I've got big plans for the podcast. So we're going to make some waves with this, hopefully. And we're going to wrap it up there, and I will see you guys in future podcasts. All right, so I will see you later.